Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag from the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
All right, we're back again this week. We're going to have more coaches. We're shifting into football season at this point, even though we're still, a few weeks away for the actual kickoff. But we're going to start this show today with new first-year Barren County football coach John Myers. Not his first year as a football coach. He's done this a little while. John, I remember I tell people this story all the time. Whenever you went to Monroe County, it was my first year here. And that first season, you used to tell me, who gives you better barbecue than I do?
So, I think I actually said, who takes care of you better than I do. But it was through the barbecue.
Yes,
that
is true. That is true. That is true.
Well, we tried to take care of you anyway.
Yeah, well, you always did. You had to have a big old cooler full of barbecue usually back at the field house.
I've got to give John Pettit a little credit on that, too.
Is that right?
He was always in charge of the barbecue.
Well, that does strike me as a John Pettit kind of thing.
There you go.
I'm sure he demanded to be in charge of the barbecue.
That's right.
Well, here you are entering your first season as the football coach at Barren County. And I guess I have to ask you, you've been an assistant coach at Glasgow for a few years now. And your last stint as a head coach was for, 15 years at Russellville? Is that what it was?
14.
14. Mm-hmm. And what made you decide that you wanted to go back and be a head coach again?
I guess Coach Butler can probably relate to this. If it is a weak moment, wasn't it, Coach?
That's right. Weakness set in.
No, I'm kidding. I was very fortunate at Monroe County and at Russellville and at Glasgow. Well, in Mayfield before that, but in Hancock County. But I was very fortunate to be in a situation where our teams had the opportunity for success, and I thoroughly enjoyed working with Coach Garman at Glasgow. My son played there, and those were some special years for us. And I had kind of made the decision, really, before last football season, that was probably going to be my last one at Glasgow, or as an assistant. It was time for to do something different, and I really wasn't planning on getting into a head coaching job, even though I had kind of kept that as a possibility if the right situation came about. And so when the football season was over, it never even crossed my mind. I wasn't looking for any jobs or anything, and then this popped open, and it was just a situation where I felt like it was a good opportunity to go into a situation and try to I saw it as a challenge. I saw it as an opportunity to go to a place that was really, everybody I talked to, they just seemed like that they were just starving for a successful football program.
Right.
And I know that I've got a lot of friends that have coached there and worked their tail off to lay the foundation for future success. And so it was just a unique opportunity that I felt like, hey, let's give this a shot. Let's see what we can do. I run the wing tee. A lot of people aren't too keen on the wing tee. They want to get in the gun. They want to spread it out and throw it around. And I feel like this offense fits Barren County also. I feel like it's a run heavy offense where you're trying to control the clock. You want to control the time of possession. And I feel like that's what I feel like that's what Barren County can do to be successful. And I just saw it as a tremendous opportunity and challenge, and thought, why not? I'm 53. I'm retired, and if it works out, great. If it doesn't, and it's funny. I'll share this story with you. I did a lot of soul searching over whether to apply, and I did a lot of praying, and if this was God's will, if that's what you want me to do, and to make a long story short, I drive a truck part time, and it was right before the snowstorm hit, and we needed to make a delivery before the snow hit the next day or two. And I was out on an unusual Saturday delivery, and on my way home, my route took me on Trojan Trail. And as I turned on Trojan Trail, I hadn't been on Trojan Trail a quarter of a mile, and the phone rang, and it was Bo Matthews offering me the job. And so I thought that was a pretty clear sign.
Yeah.
And so it's worked out. We've got a tremendous group of young men that are working extremely hard. We've got a tremendous group of parents that are gung-ho in the booster club and trying to do everything they can to give these kids in this program what they need to be successful. I've got a group of assistant coaches that are selfless and that are working extremely hard and have great relationship with those kids. The school administration has done everything we've asked to do, and it's been a pleasure. As there's days when you get up and you think, man, it's gonna be a long day today, or it's gonna be a hot practice tonight. But what am I thinking? What I get myself? And then as soon as you get there, you get around those kids, and you see the eagerness in their eyes. Don't get me wrong; they're not exactly excited about practice in 95-degree heat either. But but they're there, so it's been a blessing.
Well, and a couple of things. I mentioned the Russellville, but I'm pretty sure about the same time you took the Russellville job, Barren County courted you for the football job at that time. Your wife, being a Barren County graduate, I guess, is, family. I guess family wanted to have you guys around here. I guess your children were very young at that point, or maybe not born. And so, but you took that Russellville, and that turned out to be a path in your career where you moved up in the administration beyond just being a football coach. So is this kind of an opportunity, you and your wife being around here, having been back in this area for a number of years now, to kind of stay here and do something that maybe you're like, I wonder what would have happened if I took that job way back then?
Yeah, that's a lot of it. I had 3 or 4 different opportunities to come back to Barren and be the football coach, and for whatever reason, I was in a great situation at Russellville. My kids were in a really good place at the time, and it just didn't seem, the timing just didn't seem right at the time, and like I said, I really wasn't expecting this now, but when it happened, I was like, maybe this is the time, because I'm not getting any younger, and so I think you're right, James. I think that played a lot into it. Anytime. And I'm sure Coach Butler was probably courted by several schools in the area with the success that he had in the girls' basketball program, and maybe even thought about an opportunity or two. But at the same time, those things are flattering, and you appreciate those. You do, even if you don't take those positions, you still appreciate the fact that everybody wants to feel wanted. Everybody wants to, wants to know that people, care about what they do and want you to be around. So that was always part of it too. I felt like, maybe, God works in mysterious ways. He's, this opportunity's come around 3 or 4 times. If it comes around again, maybe I should take it.
Right.
And so here we are.
Yeah. John?
Let's talk about your application of your wing tee and your players. I know you got to – listen, I'm a big Tate Spillman fan. I mean, I watched him last year and even his sophomore year. He looks like to me he would fit that system perfectly. Smart, he can read things. He's tough, throw, run, and so forth. Just talk about how your personnel right now. I know you haven't scrimmaged anybody yet, and so you'll have to adapt to some of that. But how's all that kind of fitting in personnel with your scheme?
Well, you was talking about Tate there. I totally agree. I think he fits this system like a glove. I think he will end up being a tremendous quarterback in this offense. I mean, he's a tremendous football player, quarterback, in probably in any offense. Let's just be honest. So, and then from the personnel standpoint, I always felt like that the personnel at Barren fit this offense, from the linemen to the receivers to the backs, unfortunately, man, we've been really hammered with the injury bug this summer. Braxton Carnes was a key player that tore his ACL back at the 1st of June.
He was a good defensive player, too.
Yeah. Then Briggs Harris is another kid that was really vying for some time. Really speedster, really moves well. He didn't tear anything, but he aggravated his knee in 7-on-7 on July 18th, so he's out a few weeks. I'm trying to think. There's another one or two that's we've had a couple of key injuries on our offensive line, and whenever regardless of what classification you are, whether you're 1A or 6A, you lose 2 or 3 of your better athletes, better football players, man, it takes a toll. And,
Sure does.
Fortunately, it happened when it did in some ways, and that we're going to be able to, figure it out, hopefully. But, I was a wishbone triple option veer type coach up until 2014, and stumbled across this offense at an All-Star game. I was coaching an All-Star game with Coach Jim McKee from Scott County, and they had just come off of winning the 2013
6A.
State Championship.
6A.
6A.
Yeah, not Trinity, not
No,
St. X,
no,
Scott
they
County.
won it, and this was what they were doing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I felt like when I was at Russellville, I was looking at it, I was like, man, that fits us. That fits us. And I went completely cold turkey on what we were doing and went straight into this. And it was it made us a much, much better football team. And so I believe in this. I think our kids are starting to believe in it. Waylon Clemens, he's another offensive or defensive player, and I don't think had played a lot of offense over the years.
He was a leading tackler last year.
Yeah, and
But he's athletic.
He is, and so with we had a couple of Z's that were banged up, and we call their Z our wing position, the wing back, and. I said, Waylon, because Waylon didn't practice a lot of offense the whole spring practice in the month of June when we practiced. And I just went to Waylon. I said, I need you to learn this offense, man. I said, I don't know how much you're going to play in it or not, if you even want to play offense. I said, but this team needs you to figure this out. And so he's really been working at it the last about 2 or 3 weeks. And last week at practice, he said, I'm starting to get the hang of this. I kind of like this. I kind of like this.
Yeah.
So it's like a light bulb went off, and I'm telling you what, he can help us. And you have to have depth. You can't have one kid at each position like that. You've got to have some depth. And, so basically through the injuries that we've had, I think it's been able to help us find some other kids that have stepped up in those positions and given us added depth. So, I'm anxious to see how that plays out with all of our kids.
Well, and I think one thing, last year, Barren County lost all of their linebackers and most of their linemen, at the beginning of last season to graduation and that kind of thing. But they had a good defensive backs back. That defensive back situation is the same as it was last year, I think, and depending on what you decide to do. And so, on the defensive side, you've got a bunch of guys who are probably sophomores that were playing linebacker and lineman. So I would think you like the experience you have coming back on defense.
Oh no, definitely. We I know Dakota Wade and Bray Bewley are both returning as corners. Tate Spillman returns as the safety as well. We've got a slew of sophomores. I tell you what, a tremendous sophomore class with some kids that are stepping up and fighting and really competing heavily for some playing time. And you go across the board, Colton Thomas, I think, played defensive end last year. We've moved him down inside to like a nose guard in our 50 look and our 3-3 stack look. And he's a quick, strong kid that we feel like maybe he'll be able to cause some problems from the interior. You've got Nolan Harlow, who is returning. Because I think he was injured in the first game of the year last year, missed the whole season. So I know he's looking forward to being back out there. You've got Corbin Wells, a sophomore, looking at middle linebacker. You've got Cody Kearney, on the offensive side, looking at a lot of fullback and some linebacker play as well. But then you got Waylon Clemens, Braden Shoulders, Steele Whitaker. Looking at some linebacker play.
Truitt, is he back?
Who?
Logan Truitt?
No.
I'm Jackson Reese is.
No,
he's not. Okay.
No. And Jackson Bird looking at some defensive side of the ball. Baylor Browning is really coming on strong, doing a tremendous job.
Yeah, played so much.
Jordan Harris, another sophomore, doing a tremendous job. Sean Brody, man. Sean Brody's a tough cookie, and he's going to give us some strength on that defensive line as well. So we got a lot of kids. You know, our offensive line is beginning to gel. Alex Sawyer and Ethan Bertram, Grayson Billingsley, Charlie Poland, Ryan Harrison.
And it's a totally different blocking scheme under the wing.
It is. Carson Geralds. We got a lot of kids that are really competing and vying for some opportunities. And, you know, some of those young kids are pushing those older kids. And, you know,
that's fine. It makes
competition's
you better.
a great thing.
That's exactly right.
Well, I was going to say, a lot of times, I mean, if I'm, and this may have just been the Russellville situation, but I think even at Monroe County, as I recall, you liked your linemen who could, like, get off the ball and like, reach people on the blocks and that kind of stuff. And on the defensive side, you kind of like quick linemen, maybe even more so than just big dudes, right?
Well, you know, when I was at Russellville, we didn't have the size was not kind of our forte. We had a few big linemen, you know, big strong linemen, and we used them where we could, especially on the offensive line. But on the defensive side of the ball, we played with a 175-pound nose guard a lot of times, and, you know, and just turned them loose, and they caused a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So it just depends on your personnel and what you look for and everything. But, yeah, as far as those linemen need to come off the ball, they need to give your backs room to run. And I've said it a lot of times before, I believe that in high school football, in order to win, you have to be able to run the football and you have to be able to stop the run. And if you can do those two things, you're going to put yourself in a position. Don't get me wrong, we want to throw the ball. We want to. We want to be able to do that. We want to do that when we want to, not when we have to.
Right.
And so that's just kind of our philosophy, and we're looking forward to seeing how it works out for us. You know, I mean, it doesn't happen as quick as you would like for it to. You know, you come into a situation like this, and I mean, these kids are having to learn completely new terminology. They're having to learn complete new offensive and defensive sets and formations and play calling, and you know, so you come in thinking it's easy because, you know, I've done it for 10 years, and but you know, it takes some time. It takes some time for these kids to figure it out. And even Tate, you'll see him sitting there thinking about some things from time to time. You know, you understand, because all of these kids have been bombarded with a lot of information. Right. You know.
Yeah, John, you got some questions about his schedule?
Oh, well, I like a schedule, to be honest with you. I mean, just schedule is a schedule. You don't know until you play, you know. And I just know as a coach, you kind of look at that first one and you just kind of move on from there. But I just wanted your scrimmages. You got two scrimmages first. Hart, who I think was semifinals in the state last year.
They were.
Yeah, lost to Bell County.
Yeah,
2 points away. They got beat 30-28 to go to the state championship game.
Yeah.
So
by Bell County.
And you got them in Adair. I would think this first year, it's maybe a little bit more important than normal, just because you want to get your kids by the time the first couple of games, rather than thinking, playing, and maybe that'll get some of the kinks out, where the terminology and things like that through the scrimmage. And plus, you can see. I just think sometimes as a coach, there's one thing what you can watch in practice. There's another thing what you can watch when you play somebody.
Sure.
You know who's not necessarily a gamer, but who does the little things or goes. I just think game play is much different than practice.
It absolutely is, because I don't know if you knew Gwen Gaddy. Coach Gaddy was my defensive coordinator at Russellville for a few years. And he had a term for those guys that he called them silks. He said, they sure don't look very good in practice, but you put the game uniform on them on Friday night, and buddy, they come to play. Yeah. He called them silks. And, I'm anxious to find that out, because – we're going by what's happening in practice. And, there's a lot of times you've got kids that really look good in practice and do everything right, and you get them on the game field on Friday night when the lights come out, and it's almost like, not that they're not getting anything accomplished, but they're not doing what you kind of thought they would. And then you got kids that can't get anything done in practice, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, the lights come on, and, man, it's like, where did this kid come from? So, of course, we're looking forward to finding those things out, and looking forward to some competition this coming Friday night with Hart County coming over. Of course, they went to the Final Four, like Coach Butler said last year. They lost some really good football players. They had a really nice senior class, but they had 18 juniors too, and they've got a tremendous senior class this year. So they're not going to fall off a whole lot.
Yeah,
they may not be quite what they were last year, but I think as the season goes, if they stay healthy, they got a chance to be another really good football team. And they've been running their system for several years now, and we're just kind of trying to figure it out. So,
right.
We'll see how things go Friday night, but it's a great challenge. It's a great measure to see where we're at. And then Adair County, the scrimmage the next week, they've got a tremendous senior class coming back too. They've got a
well coached too. He does a good job.
Does a good job. I mean,
he was really good at Casey.
Yes.
The program around.
Adair's got they got a good football team this coming year. They're going to be hard to deal with. So both of these scrimmages are going to get us,
You got 6 home games, and 4 road games. That's one of the better teams on your schedule. I mean, you got the traditional ones that we normally play early. Metcalf, Monroe, Glasgow, 3 of the first 5. Obviously, everybody with Glasgow, but go to Greene, who's where I'm from. And they got a really good football team. They came down last year and wore us out 38-0, but they are really, really good.
Normally do now. And so, I look at this schedule, and I told somebody this is a very, very scary schedule in a lot of ways because I look at it and I see, I think we can beat every team on this schedule. And then I look at it and I think, every team on this schedule can beat us,
right.
And I mean that.
Yeah.
I mean that. So I do. I think we're capable of competing and winning every ball game on our schedule. But at the same time, I think every team on our schedule can beat us if if we don't play. I mean that. And Coach Butler, I mean, I'm sure he can relate to that.
Yeah, I couldn't wait for that first win. Of course, I had 30 to play with. You got 10. I couldn't wait to get to the first one.
I was a head baseball coach before I became a head football coach, and I found out quick as a head football coach. You get beat on Friday night, you have to think about that and live with that for a week.
Yep.
Baseball, you get beat on Monday, you get to play on Tuesday.
That's correct.
You get a chance. Basketball, you get beat on Tuesday, you get to play on Friday or whatever. That football, man, when you lose a game,
it's a long week.
It's a long week.
So you're hoping for not many long weeks this
Well,
season, right?
I mean, you've got to be realistic. But the bottom line is, and I tell our kids this all the time, our job as coaches is to put those kids in position to make plays, and it's the kids' job to make plays.
Yeah.
Our job is to put you in position, and I promise you, I'll never. If I don't put you in position, you'll never see me upset. And there's a lot of times that I'll call a play, and I look out there and I say, "Gosh, dang, there's no way this is going to work," because I've called a bad. I felt like they were going to be in something different defensively, and they switched on us or whatever. And I'll never hold those kids accountable for something that's not their, not their fault.
Right.
We want to put those kids in position, and that's our whole goal is to put those kids in position to make plays and let them go out there and have fun and play. Because, especially on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, it is so important to get lined up right and get those kids in position to defend what you're going to be going up against. And but it's exciting at the same time, So Coach Mason Perkins, he's going to be calling our defense, and Chad Eaton, who is going to be instrumental on our offensive side of the ball. I probably wear them out on the phone because we're talking, and that's mostly what we're talking about is positioning, and what can we do to put our kids in the best possible position to be successful.
Well, before your scrimmage on Friday against Hart County at home, both your scrimmages are at home, right?
They are.
Okay.
We were supposed to scrimmage at Hart County this Friday, but they're having some renovations made to their field, and it's not going to be ready. And Coach asked if we could do it at our place.
All right. And does that start at 6 or 7?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. And then, of course, Meet the Trojans is on Thursday. I think that starts at 6 as well.
I think it may be 7.
Yeah, it might be 7. But we're going to be out there.
Okay.
We're going to have a little tent set up and have people try to get people to realize that all the sports that we cover on this
Sure.
radio station on our website. But anyway, Coach Myers, I want to thank you for coming in here and talking to us about the upcoming season and look forward to it. I know, John, I'm guessing you're doing a lot of the games this
I
year.
do most of them. I got a nephew that plays it in Lexington
Yeah,
for
so
Lafayette, so
you're
I'll
gonna
miss
miss a
some to
few.
go watch that. But I'll do 75% of them.
All right.
I just do the wins.
That's a great strategy. Tell them to up that to 100%.
Did you say 75%?
That's it. Is that okay? If it's the right 75?
That's not a bad start.
That's right.
Not a bad start.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Coach Myers, for coming in here and talking to us about Barren County football. This is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, we're back here on the Brown Sports Bag. I want to thank Barren County football coach John Myers for joining us. It's kind of interesting to say that he's the Barren County football coach, because I know he's been one of through a few different times at Barren County. He mentioned this when they've had coaching changes, that he's been a person they've tried to get to come and coach. Because of course, the family relationships here in Barren County through his wife, but also, I mean, he's just a heck of a football
That's
coach.
correct.
So he's been successful everywhere he's been, and hopefully that works out for the Trojans as well. John, this topic here is one I find amusing, mostly because, as I told you before we came on the air, it's the farce of penalties of NCAA sanctions and that kind of stuff. And the secondary farce of self-reporting seems to cost you more than just getting caught. I don't know. We've had that discussion on here before, but we're talking about the Kentucky football in this situation. We'll talk about the swimming, too, because that one's no laughing matter. But the football one is you had 11 players who were being paid to do a job at the University Hospital, I think it was.
I think that's right.
And they didn't show up to work. And so this is 2021-22, I think is the time frame there. But they were still playing. 8 of them, I think, were still started in games and that kind of stuff. And so I think it was the 2021 season. They had to vacate the 10 wins for using ineligible players. And it's just the kind of thing where with the NIL money and all the money in college sports at the moment, especially college football, that's why I think it's just a farce, these penalties, because people are getting paid to do nothing anyway at this point, and they just happen to be slightly ahead of the curve on this. And so there are sanctions, and they were self-reported by the University of Kentucky. I think within the athletic administration, they found no one responsible for being, purposely violating this. And I don't even know how that work pay situation worked necessarily, so I didn't even quite get into how that was supposed to work to start with. Did you see anything about that particular part of it?
Well, Coach Stoops was not responsible, they said.
Yes, that's right.
They said that he had no knowledge. Probably true. I don't know if he follows where they
Well, I mean,
work. But,
how could you in a way?
I mean, I don't know. But, you're right in the sense it's a farce in one sense, because there's basically you can just pay people now to play.
Right.
In the same sense, though, it's irritating in another sense too, that this stuff just goes on, and it just seems wrong in general.
Yeah.
From the player's perspective, to take payment and not work, that's
Right.
wrong.
Yes.
For the hospital or whoever, the university hospital, whoever's in charge to pay people, knowing they're not working, is wrong.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you would think that would spark some question within the hospital, administration or whatever.
Just wrong.
Yeah.
The punishment in itself, vacating 10 wins, okay. It doesn't necessarily seem. Those guys were on your team anyway, I assume.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they were getting paid anyway, but that doesn't seem. I don't know what you do, but I guess from my perspective, what makes me upset more than anything is that North Carolina several years ago, when they had the education
somebody
scandal,
was doing all the work.
doing all their work,
Yeah.
not even attending class,
Yeah.
major ineligibility, nothing got done to them.
Yeah. Because the NCAA said they couldn't govern that particular aspect of what was going on there.
Michigan just won a national title in football, and it seemed like the violations in football were much more directly related to
The on the field performance.
yes, when you steal signs,
Right.
and it's just gotten worse too. Just
Yes.
another report just came out about their now head coach was really involved. It seems like. They're not vacating their championship, and
Yeah.
then you go back to Louisville, and this, I guess, from the people from the Louisville perspective, what really irritates you, to have to forfeit 30 or 40 games and give up a national title over basically strippers. It's basically what it came down to.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
That really doesn't have anything to do with play either.
Yeah, so that is the interesting thing. We've gone at the time with the stuff with Louisville. If you are trying to punish a lack of institutional control, then all that makes sense. But conversely, if you don't have the ability to punish North Carolina for lack of institutional control, because it's the academic side of things cheating, not the athletic side, which, that makes you scratch your head and say, okay, whatever.
But you have to be academically eligible to play.
Well, yes. So these are things you can see, okay, we're going to try to crack down on programs that are demonstrating a lack of institutional control. Well, now this is kind of like, okay, but how is this not a lack of institutional control? Somebody had to be responsible for knowing whether these people were supposed to be going to work to collect this pay. Is this another case like North Carolina where they just happen to be not in the athletic department, which is why the athletic department is like not under heavier circumstance? And if you're really going back to the swimming thing, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Swimming's totally different. Swimming's a sexual harassment and more than sexual harassment.
Well, what I'm getting at is if we're talking about lack of institutional control, there were people who were reporting these issues to people in the athletic department, allegedly, and it was not being dealt with.
Right.
There's no greater lack of institutional control than not dealing with your issues.
Right.
Over 12 or 13 years, however long that was.
Right.
So, I mean, we're talking about the football, but on the flip side for the University of Kentucky, there's this whole other animal hanging around out there related to this swim coach.
True.
That's going to be dealt with probably in a civil court sort of
I
way.
think it's fair to say, I think there's two things. Number one, I think it's fair to say that college sports is in a mess.
Yes.
It's a complete mess.
Yes.
Whether it's transfer, whether it's NIL, whether it's NCAA enforcement of whatever they can enforce. It is a complete giant mess. And two, the second thing is I don't think most people care anymore.
Well, how can
Most
you?
people
Yeah.
just care about what's going on the field on Saturday night in a football game or at a basketball game or whatever. People don't want to see how the sausage is made.
Right.
And they don't care how you get players.
Yeah.
They don't care. Most people don't care how they're paid, how you get there, what goes on. They want to hear about it. They just want to watch the action. And that's kind of where we're at right now between knowing how the sausage is made and the end product.
Yeah.
And to me, there still has to be a governing body and some form of rules.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to hold. It's not just to hold. Young people need to be held for some of the things they do. I think it's important lessons.
Yeah.
But also these monster giant schools led by these adults, coaches, or whatever. They also need to be somewhat held responsible. And I don't really know what the answer is other than the benefit that these schools and athletes have is the everyday person doesn't really care.
Well, and there are two things we didn't even mention as we were talking about this because, you look back at the basketball scandal. Was it related to Nike or Converse or whichever one it was?
About Louisville?
No, I'm talking about LSU,
Yes.
Auburn, Arizona, I think, was in there. Maybe Kansas, an assistant at Kansas.
Yeah, it's Adidas.
Yeah, Adidas. So we didn't even discuss the whole LSU situation where basically the institution just thumbed its nose at the NCAA and said, make us fire the coach, make us do something.
Right.
And they didn't. And so they couldn't, as it turned out, which was the clearest sign that the NCAA just has no teeth. It is it is a volunteer organization in terms of saying, yes, we will abide by the rules. Because in the end, if chaos sets in, then once chaos sets in, it's going to continue to escalate, to the point that where we seem to be headed, which is the only thing that matters at all is the amount of money. That's the only thing that matters at all. And even though the players can now get some piece of the money through NIL, beyond their scholarships and that kind of stuff, and they can get some piece of that particular pie outside the institution that they're playing for, it's not.
The only thing the NCAA can do anymore is set how many years you can play.
Yeah, well, can they?
And
we had some dude that's going to be starting his 7th year this year.
And possibly academic requirements.
Yeah.
Possibly. Who knows? The SEC could overrun that.
Yeah. Well,
I'm serious.
Yeah.
And NCAA runs, the basketball tournaments and things like that. They do not run the football.
No.
Not at the Division I series. They don't.
Right.
So they're, it's just like I said, it's a mess. It's a mess that I don't know what the answer is other than when the games start, people want to like it. They like it. They want to bet on it. That's a big deal. They want to bet.
That's the money again.
That's the money. They want to bet on it. They want to watch it. They want to enjoy it, and they don't care how it gets there.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of think that's where we are, to be honest with you. Does it promote ethics? Does it promote accountability? Mm-hmm. It does not. And I thought originally that's kind of where it was all designed to.
Yeah.
Now maybe at certain levels, but I'm talking about big-time football, big-time basketball,
mm-hmm.
and maybe some of the others. But for the most, for everybody else, I think it's more of a fair situation and so forth. But boy, when you get in the weeds with football and basketball, boy.
Yeah, it is. And then, I think in the end, I don't know. We've discussed this on this show. I don't know what the end result of this is. And
Kentucky, nothing other than Stoops has lost 10 games.
Yeah. Well, they need to fire him. He's a losing coach now, isn't he?
He has a losing record now.
We'll end on that. This is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, John, I'm going to give a little quick recap on some golf. Barren County Trojanettes hosted their invitational on Saturday at the lake, and they finished runners up. That was their best finish. They've been playing a pretty tough field. Now South Warren, I don't think South Warren played Saturday, so pretty much every tournament they've played in, except for a couple, they've finished third or fourth, somewhere in that window, behind South Warren and Bowling Green, which are also in the Region 3 with them, so that's who they're competing with. But they had nobody in the 70s on Saturday, but they had everyone, I think it was 81 to 88. So they had.
I thought that was a good score.
Yeah, it was.
4 in the 80s at Barren River Lake Park is really good.
Yeah, and so that was good for them. That's why I think they shot 342 as a team. I think that's what that works out as. But yeah, that was the first time they've had everybody kind of in that group. Now, if they can get a couple of them to kind of get back into the 70s, because they've had Kinsey Edwards shot 78 earlier this season. I think Lucy Zala shot a 79 earlier this season. Chloe Witcher shot like a 77, 78 a couple of times in that window. So, they got 3 who are capable of getting there, and then Tinsley Nagel, I think, if she can get in the 80s, that gives them a good chance. So we'll see how, they got a month and a half left in the season, even though they've played, I don't know how many tournaments already. So we'll see how they can close that out. And then Lady Scotties hosted their invitational last week, and was it Marshall County ended up winning? I think it was. But anyway, Barren played in that one too. I think
Marshall won it.
Yeah. So they've had some pretty good tournaments lately. All 4 of the teams were playing today. Glasgow's boys were playing at the 2A sectional over at Park Mammoth. Boy, and it was hot out there, John. Griffin Jackson shot, I think it was a 74, and he qualified for the state. That'll be in Owensboro sometime in September. Mm-hmm. And then Zach Sloan from Hart County's been playing really well. He actually won the Scotty Invitational last Monday, shot a 69. Griffin Jackson's been off to a pretty hot start as well for the Scotties. And then Barren County's boys and girls played in the Greenwood Invitational was at Bowling Green Country Club today. I think Braden Furlong shot like 78. I think it was. He was 6 over 78. That was
where was that? Where was that? Indian Hills or
Bowling Green Country Club?
Where the
state is.
Yeah.
So so they played there. Braden's been playing pretty well on the boys' side. Everybody else is kind of struggling at this point. And then the Barren County girls, they didn't tee off till 1:30, so I don't know.
Ooh, hot today.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. The heat index probably interrupted them at some point in time. I mean, although they measured it a little differently now than they did. It's not just humidity and temp; it's some other variants.
Oh, I didn't know
in there.
that. Okay.
Yeah, like wind. Also, it's this little device, and it measures all these different things.
Hot's hot though.
Yes, that's right. I mean, it doesn't matter what that thing says when it's 91, 92 degrees and 75% humidity. It's cooking you out there. So
the only good thing for the golfers is that they are more adapt to the heat than others because they've been outside playing for a long time too.
Yeah.
So that
they
helps.
play all through the summer on these tours
That's
and whatnot.
correct. But still, legally, I mean, you can't mess with that.
No,
you got to go by the high school rules and so forth because then you can get in some real serious, not just for the safety of the kids, but also legal matters as well.
Right. So, golf season's rolled along pretty well. I was going to mention real quick, and we're going to talk about the Olympics in the next segment more fully, but Scotty Scheffler won the gold at the Olympics.
Came from 4 down in the last on the back 9.
Yeah.
He birdied the last 4, I believe.
Yeah.
But he also had players ahead of him that kind of collapsed, like John Rahm.
Right. So, can you think of anything else from the golf world that has stood out to you lately?
No, other than the recent run of some of our locals.
Yeah.
We've talked about Taryn Durham and some others that have done so well at the state level.
Yeah. Well, and also
Trey Shirley had a big played really well up in Canada.
Yeah, that's right. I think it'll be about 3 weeks until the college golf season gets going. And so, Abby Lee down at Middle Tennessee is going to be her senior year. Has played real well this summer, so it'd be interesting to see.
Got somebody at Western, right?
Yeah, Nina McMurtry's over there at Western. So, we got some people. We got a couple of people playing, I think, at Lindsey Wilson and Campbellsville. So we'll keep up with them as the fall breaks for us and see how their seasons are going as well.
That's right.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about a bunch of Olympic stuff. All right, it's Brown Sports Bag, presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, John, I got a question for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite Olympic sport?
Swimming.
Okay. Do you have a list of sports that if you just off the top of your head thought of, you'd think they should never be in the Olympics to start with? They're not a sport.
Well, yeah, there's a ton of those. Yeah, I mean,
what's the first one you think of?
Break dancing. We'll start with that one.
Okay.
Seems a little.
You don't like that popping and locking stuff? You don't think that's an Olympic sport?
Seems a little bit too much for me.
Isn't that like gymnastics? When they have the little flowery thing or the little thing? What is that called? Dance? It's some gymnastic dancing or whatever that is.
That shouldn't be in either. Yeah, that and I don't know, surfing. I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, I like surfing.
Okay, all right. Well, that surfing stuff.
It's just it should be like in the south of France with those rocky beach and whatever instead of Tahiti. They should actually have to go out there and brave those rocks down there in the south of France. Probably not a great place to go surfing.
The equestrian jumping. I don't know.
Do you like the horse dancing? You think that should be an Olympic sport?
No, I mean there's stuff like that. I'm not really into. There's a lot of things I'm not into. I like the swimming and track.
Yeah.
That's when I think of Olympics.
Yeah.
That's what I think of the Olympics.
So, so what you're saying is that if the horse is doing all the work, that maybe that shouldn't have been an Olympic sport?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Or the horse should get the gold medal, maybe?
I don't know. I mean, I like horses, but that's just you asked me a question. I don't know. Badminton probably shouldn't be in either.
Is the ping pong in the Olympics
ping pong's
right now?
Table tennis.
Yeah, table tennis.
Yeah, I mean sort of a sport, but it's not really interesting to me.
Yeah. Do you like the tennis in the Olympics?
Not really, but it's a sport.
Yeah.
But it's played by it's just like another stop on the tour. That's the difference.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, we mentioned the golf.
They don't
and the
get
private
paid. They don't.
It's kind of like that too.
They don't get paid.
Yeah.
And you could tell it meant a lot when Scotty Scheffler won it. I mean, he cried during the anthem, and it meant a lot when Novak won. Won for Serbia. I mean, he cried. So it clearly means a lot to those pros.
Yeah.
But it still seems like the track and the swimming and all these other events that you only see basically every 4 years.
Right.
That just has a little bit more to it to me. Though I love the Olympics. I mean, and I'm tickled to death to see it's had incredible high TV ratings, which tells me a lot. It tells me that, and we got a political campaigns going on, and the nation seems angry and split and all the time. That at least it's still good that people kind of cheering for and following your nation and things like that.
Yeah.
So that unification. And I just, I do like to see that journey and the work that those athletes put into it. I still think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I do. One thing about the Olympics is there are sports that I would never see unless they were at the Olympics.
Yep.
And I guess, the horse thing isn't one of them, but the gymnastics thing is. I mean, there's no way I'd ever watch a college gymnastics match.
Right.
But
the women's gymnastics is one of the stars.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Simone Biles.
Yeah.
The women winning the gold. It was so cool. The men won a bronze, and that the men hardly ever even medal.
Yeah.
But Simone Biles is probably the greatest gymnast of all time.
Right.
And she came back after 4 years ago where she had to basically withdraw because of some issues that she was having.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Katie Ledecky, I mean, the most accomplished women's swimmer of all time. She's now got, I think, 14 medals total in her career, 9 golds. She won the same event 4 straight times, the 1,500.
Yeah.
4 straight Olympics. First at 16, now she's 27, and going to swim in L.A. in 2028. I love the relays and things like that. The women in particular have been good in the swimming.
Yeah.
And track, I don't know if you watched it last night. Noah Lyles barely won the 100-yard dash.
Right.
And I learned a lot on that one too, because it didn't look like to me that he won. And then you saw the photo, and somebody's foot was in front and things like that. How they measure it is your torso, which is your chest, which I assume prevents you from like diving across the line. Whoever gets there first, and he won by the slimmest of all time.
Yeah, .05, is that what it was?
Something like that.
Yeah.
So that was so cool. In fact, we went 1-3, and the United States is obviously we're ahead in total medals, but now we're ahead in gold medals, and track may be our best event anyway. So that's cool. I look forward to the runner that ran at Kentucky. That's the 400 hurdler, Sydney McLaughlin. She's tremendous.
Lavorne, I think is her.
Yeah, she just got married, right? So look forward to watching her this week and so forth. But yeah, I try to not to watch it during the day, and I watch the show at night for the most part. Though I will watch basketball, when it comes on earlier and things like that. The women and men are in the. Obviously, they made the they're in the final quarterfinals. That's right. Neither team has lost. In fact, I mentioned last week, give LeBron a lot of credit. He's playing. It's clearly the leader of the team, playing well. The women are playing. The women have won 58 straight games.
Yeah.
It
might be getting a little bored.
Yeah. So they've won 58 straight. And not quite as dominant as sometimes in the past, but still, they're going to win a gold. Their chances of winning a gold are greater, I think, than the men. Because the men are going to have to go through France or Canada, who are really, really good.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. I was absolutely impressed by Canada. Although France did suffer that loss to Germany the other day. I think that was on Friday, which kind of shocked me. I mean, you got what's his name, Schroeder out there just killing them, and the guy can hardly stay in the NBA. I mean, he's Dennis Schroeder. He's been in the NBA.
He's good.
He's good. But, he's kind of like one of those afterthought point guards that you don't remember until you see him in a situation like that, and you're like, oh, that guy's pretty good. So that was a pretty shocking, I think, win there by Germany. I mean, they played well in that game. And it's just like when I was watching some of these games, I'm like, okay, there's so many of these international, I'm doing air quotes now, players who are in the NBA, and a lot of them who played in high school in the States and that kind of stuff. And I don't mean they're American citizens originally. I'm just saying.
Some are.
Well, they are. Some of them are. But yeah, these people who have been in the States or in the NBA and professional ranks for so long that you forget they're from another country, you know. But yeah, that was pretty impressive. And the women's team is kind of playing right now like a cat playing with its food kind of situation. They're maybe they are kind of bored, but I imagine, you know, once this single elimination gets kicked off, that'll be a different animal. You know, I don't know. You mentioned the unity. I would suggest this. Stay off of Facebook. There are plenty of people there who have lots of things to complain about the Olympics, and I have no.
I don't watch. I'm not on Facebook,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, for the most, the ratings are high.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to. They take a shot. People will take shots at anything. I mean, it doesn't matter what happens, how things go, this or that. I mean, it's always going to take some criticism. I'm just talking about. I love to see people compete, put the work into it, and then be rewarded. And you can tell with the athletes, genuinely how much they care to hear even the anthem and wearing the red, white, and blue. You can really see it from a lot of those athletes and so forth.
It strikes me this Summer Olympics that there are a lot more athletes who are, I don't know exactly how to put it. So the last 4 years ago, it felt like there were a lot of challenges for a lot of the athletes.
It was COVID.
Well, it was. It was that.
It was COVID.
The isolation.
It was COVID, and it was in Japan or China? Japan. Yeah.
I mean, so it strikes me there's just a lot more joy in this particular one. And I guess that is what it is. I didn't really think about it, but that's
people
what it
there
is.
watching you and so forth, and you didn't, it was the COVID outbreak.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe there's a lot more. When I say joy, I also mean maybe like joy in doing this. You know, a lot of the maybe taking things for granted that had occurred, and then the stress of the COVID Olympics. Because, they moved the Olympics for a whole year, right, when they were in Japan. They were supposed to be in 2020, but they were in 2021.
Right.
And so, all of those challenges of training for that 2020 Olympics and then that next year, there just seems to be a lot more joy. That's the only word I can really think of.
Yeah.
When you watch people compete and you're talking about.
Yeah, if you stay off the internet, it's really wonderful. If you get messed up with the internet and Facebook and people who just
they have no joy.
No joy in anything. I mean, they just look for anything to to criticize or whatever. Then it would be depressing, to be honest with you. But I try. I just, first of all, I don't have Facebook, but I stay away from that as much as possible. World's too tough to be just bogged down in all that mess.
Very true. Another thing, though, it looks like the TV production for this particular Olympics has been outstanding as well.
They've done a good job. Yeah, I mean, they overall have done a good job.
I don't catch many of the things live. I catch them on the replay, so I do the Peacock Plus, and you can go watch. As a matter of fact, I watched the whole Rugby Sevens, like all of the matches, because you can just turn it on and watch it. It's like 6 hours of matches or whatever it is. So that's how I watched that. But also, I appreciate that kind of thing because I don't have cable, so I don't watch traditional TV. I don't watch TV in a traditional way. I'm kind of one of those cut the cable a long time ago people. So I like the way they're kind of also allowing somebody like myself the opportunity to watch all this stuff as well. And it's all, being done through that NBC stuff. And folks like you who, I guess, can watch it however you want to watch it.
I'm TV.
Yeah, you are. It's not a bad move.
I did not cut my cable. No, I'm TV.
Yeah, but I do like that, the way they're doing that. So I can go back and watch all those Rugby 7 games, and I can watch any one of the basketball games I want to watch, that kind of thing. I can watch all of the gymnastics if I want to do that.
Water polo.
Swimming, water polo. You ever tried water polo, John?
I have not. I've had a hard time staying in the water that long.
Man, I did lifeguard training when I was in the Army, and the guy who trained us was a water polo player. He just tried to drown us. It was not fun.
There's a lot of holding and pushing to it.
Yeah, everything below the water really hurts.
That's
All
right.
right, it's the Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.